The NFL Gumbo's hot on Wednesdays. We start looking forward. So looking forward to what's about to happen. And there's a host of really good games coming our direction. But the quarterbacks that are going to take teams to championships, the way you describe them has become a matter of how you parse words.
Right.
Because every player in the NFL is a system player. By definition, you're playing in a system. Now, you might be able to transcend that system, but you're in a damn system that your coaches are going to call. Every player is a game manager. Every player is. You might manage it differently, but the definition and how it's put on you really matters. Cam Newton knows how to throw around terms like game manager and system quarterback, doesn't he?
Yeah, he did. We'll just read the quote on here. He has his own pod, and on his pod he says, quote, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jared Goff are all game managers. These are game managers. They are not difference makers.
What?
You don't agree with that? If Dak is down 14 in fourth, are you confident you're going to win? The difference between a difference maker and a game manager is if it's close or I'm ahead, he could do what he needs to do to make sure we win the game. A difference maker is all hell's broken loose. The game started off horrible. Tom Brady against the Rams. They didn't end up ultimately winning that game, but he's down 28 and he get it to where it's the last play of the game type of thing. If all hell breaks loose, do you have confidence in any of those guys that he listed that they can be the difference maker and lead them to victory? That's the difference.
Well, right now,
and I don't know if he's right or wrong, but I think he has a point. There is a difference.
So by that definition, Will Levis is a difference maker. You're down 14 with 3 minutes to go. Only guy I trust in the NFL is Will Levis.
He's a rookie. He might be. I don't have enough tape on him yet.
By that definition, everybody can be a difference maker.
No, that's not true. That's a regular season game we're talking about. Against a team that's okay. Is
Joe Flacco a difference maker?
No. He's a game manager.
He's won some games coming behind. They didn't win every game with a big lead.
He had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed.
But
he's a game manager.
But he did come from behind at some point. He did make a throw to do it. What I'm getting at is by the time you've reached the level of the quarterbacks that he just mentioned, and you're not in the echelon of right now, I don't think we have a true, other than Mahomes, guy that'll do it.
Joe Burrow's a difference maker. He's a difference maker.
He didn't win a Super Bowl.
I
can throw it down there. Well, you didn't do it. I mean, I'm just saying there are only a few.
Kansas City in the AFC Championship game in Kansas City.
Apart from those two dudes, everybody is a game manager. Everybody is. Everybody.
Well, then if that's the case, then Cam Newton is right.
But Cam can define it however he wants because Cam wasn't a difference maker.
No, he wasn't. Cam was a game manager, but he's not in the league.
Ask him if he was a game manager or a difference maker. He'll tell you I was a difference maker.
When Cam Newton made it to the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, they did it on the running game, and with their defense. Now, of course, he ain't going to admit that, but Cam Newton was a game manager also. And again, the fact that has become a knock,
a pejorative term,
is the problem. That's the problem. Like, quarterbacks don't want to be known as that. Which is exactly why, I will get back to that, which is exactly why it's like Dak Prescott didn't use his legs much because he wanted to be seen as this pocket passer guy that was a traditional quarterback, and don't put me in that boat with those guys that do it with their legs. And it hurt him. So I don't know why game manager is such a knock, but it has become. Joshua Jimenez, shout out to YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, says CJ Stroud is a difference maker. I don't have enough video evidence of that. He's only played 11, 12 games. I can't say that yet, but it looks like he's on his way to being a difference maker. For sure.
Josh Allen was thought of as that. And keep in mind, to be the guy to come back, normally you've made a bunch of mistakes to put you in a situation where you have to come back.
I just feel like, perfect example, I always go to this example. Rex Grossman got to a Super Bowl. When the Colts jumped on them and things weren't going right, you knew there was nothing that Rex Grossman could do to keep them back in that game, to get them back in that game. If Dak Prescott, they play San Francisco this year, Rob, and they're down double digits in the second half, You don't believe Dak's bringing them back.
I disagree with that.
You don't believe that.
I do. I
they
think
beat
that
them 3. What
every game's a different. This is a different quarterback. I disagree with that.
If you're saying that you think that Dak Prescott in San Francisco can bring them back from a double-digit game, please give me the reason.
I think he's capable of it. I do. I think he's capable. I knew Rex Grossman was never capable.
But what I'm saying is, what are you basing that off of? The team that's beat him 3 times in a row. What are you basing it?
This
on?
Isn't that
just because you feel like, oh, well, I just
you
think
get better. You change as a player. Dak is a better football player today than he was last year.
You have no evidence that he can beat
I have
San
no evidence that he won't.
Yes, you do.
No, he just hasn't. That doesn't mean he won't. That's a very different statement.
There's zero evidence that Dak Prescott can beat San Francisco in the playoffs, other than you just saying, well, I'm Rob Thompson and I believe
it's never happened, it'll never happen? Is that what you're saying? It's never happened, so it'll never happen.
Because that's just like me saying I go into Alamo Cycleplex and being like, hey, I know my credit's bad, but at some point it's going to change. No, they're going to give you what you deserve based off your credit. And based off Dak's credit report against San Francisco, if all hell breaks loose, he's losing. And that is the difference in between a game manager and a difference maker.
Disagree wholeheartedly. Because
you have no
change.
evidence.
Where's
the evidence?
40 points a game at
no,
home.
I'm talking specifically San Francisco. There's no evidence.
On grass.
Other than you being a Cowboy fan, there's no evidence.
No, there is evidence. San Francisco has lost games. They are capable of losing. So no matter what, if the Cowboys are down by how many touchdowns do we lock up the game? It's over. Where's the line?
If they're down
10 points, they can't win.
No.
Ever. No comeback. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter.
I pull out my evidence and I say no.
So by that measure, if it's never happened before, it'll never happen. You just said it. They have never done it before, so they can never do it again.
Broke loose because I'm trying to. We started the conversation by difference maker and game manager.
But Dak is becoming a difference maker.
Not against San Francisco.
Well, not yet. And I'm not saying he will, but you cannot say it'll never happen.
I have more evidence that he won't than you have evidence that he will.
I have as much evidence that it'll happen that you do.
Show me.
The numbers tell you. No, I know that San Francisco can lose. They're not an impenetrable force.
Okay, well, give me the last time Dak beat him.
That's never happened.
So then what evidence do you have?
There's a lot of teams that have never beaten a team that eventually beat them. I don't like the argument that he's never done it.
What I'm saying is until he does, you can't say he will.
I can say that there's a chance. Yes, there's a better chance today that he'll do it than I would have said last year. He is better today than he was before.
And guess what? What happened the last time he played them 5 weeks ago?
Oh, they got pantsed. But he alone didn't lose it. No, say that he is not a difference maker. He is a far better difference maker today than he was a year ago.
Okay, perfect example of me having evidence and you not. Before Dak Prescott had a turnover in the last time they played San Francisco, all hell had broken loose. And what happened? He turned it over 3 times.
I'm not saying
that's the difference between a game manager and a difference maker.
But a game manager can be a difference maker is what I'm saying. Will Levis became a difference maker. 14 points down, 3 minutes to go. And I say, pick a quarterback.
Yes, he does, Gilberto. He has game-winning comebacks, not against San Francisco.
But he has potential to do it. That's all I'm saying.
Game manager, difference maker.
So if he does it once.
There's nothing wrong with being a game manager. I have him as the MVP.
We've lost that argument. That's in the past. We're talking. What happens if he does it once? Does he become a difference maker? How many times do you have to come from behind for me to go, oh, no longer a game manager, a difference maker? 2 times?
Well,
1 time against the 49ers?
It's got to be more than once.
5 times
it's got to be more than once because you just talked about Jalen Hurts being a one-off. You just talked about Jalen Hurts had an MVP season last year.
So by your reasoning, he will never win a Super Bowl because he hasn't beaten the 49ers.
Until you do it.
See, you can't make that argument until you do it.
What are you talking about? You can't make that argument. We did that with LeBron. Nobody gave LeBron any credit. He was the king with no rings until he did it.
But you never said he'll never win it.
Yes, I did.
Oh, who did? You did not.
I did.
No one looked at LeBron and said he will never win a ring because he didn't win the first year. No one.
He lost his first 2.
It's okay, 2 years.
What are you talking about?
So we counted his career off because at 2 years,
I didn't count his career off.
Difference maker is never going to win.
No, I didn't count his career off. But what you do is you have zero evidence.
I have enough evidence to tell me he's capable of doing it. And that's all I need.
When all hell breaks loose, Clarence Hill Jr. came on our airwaves and called the Cowboys front runners.
They are.
They are. I'm not disagreeing. You know why they're front runners? Because he's not a difference maker, and there's nothing wrong with that.
14 straight home wins. He's led the league's best offense 3 consecutive years under different OCs. But he's not a difference maker.
And what happens?
They have lost games.
What happens?
They have.
And what happens?
But to tell him,
but what happens? Until you do it, you ain't did
But
it.
it doesn't mean you can't, is what I'm saying.
Well, of course
Can you
not.
become, what I'm asking the question is, at what point do you go from game manager to difference maker?
When you do it.
2 wins?
When you
3
do it.
times? Or
When you
1
do it.
time?
When you do it.
But what does that mean? 1 win? Does 1 win against the 49ers, does that make him, suddenly he's a difference maker?
No, perfect example. People kill Aaron Rodgers because he only has 1. People kill Drew Brees because he only has 1. People kill Dan Marino because he never won 1. So when we're talking about the pantheon of the greats and pantheon of game changers,
Was Drew Brees a game changer? Because I'll agree with the other two. I'm not going to agree with Drew. He was not a game changer. He was a game manager, the best to ever play. But he wasn't a game changer.
That's an tiny slaughter. I don't know.
I don't know about that. And what I'm getting at is you can take that step. You're not born a difference maker, and that's all
Rob,
you've ever been.
What I'm telling you is I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is you just saying, yeah, he can't just because I'm saying he can't. You have no evidence that he can't.
I have enough. Right. Up
to
until
this point, you have no evidence
but
of
I
it.
can look down this list and go, I know for a fact, like you put Rex Grossman ain't never going to do it, never could have. But Dak is a better guy today than he was before. He's doing things differently.
I think he's the MVP.
I expect him to become that difference maker when he wins. Now, he might not ever beat San Francisco in San Francisco. That doesn't mean he's not a difference maker. Just because.
Well, again, the reason we have a difference of opinion is because we have a difference of the definition of game changer.
I think that's it.
Because I'm just saying, when I think of game changer, I think of nothing's going right,
alone,
and you put us on your back.
Well, dude, there's been 10 guys in the history of the NFL that could do that.
So then Cam Newton's right.
And maybe he's right. And maybe we're talking about guys that only come around every 30 years. And I'm not even sure there's one in the league right now that I legitimately go, all hell. Even I've watched Mahomes for the last 2 weeks. All hell is breaking loose and he hadn't been capable. So I'm not even sure there's a guy in the league that can do what Cam is talking about. But I would say this. Of that list of guys that have the most likely potential of being the guy that's put in that, Dak's right there. He's the next most likely.
Over Tua?
I think Tua's offense probably gives him a better shot. I just don't think he has a good enough team around him.
Been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and he's running out of time. I think with every passing second, his skill set is declining, despite the fact that Joe Flacco continues to get better, evidently.
Okay.
But I don't like Cam Newton doing anything like that. Dude,
he's right to his opinion.
I like, but if you're going to quantify, put yourself in there and don't say you're better than you were, because you were doing exactly what Jalen and Dak did.
To hear the whole context.
Yeah, that's true. But I fall back on the expected arrogance of Cam Newton. I just expect him to say I was better than everybody else.
And when were those 2 wins that Dak has in the regular season over San Fran? 2018,
yeah,
17.
I don't count those. They're the big monster.
Yeah, they are.
But first 2 years in the league.
All right.
And that was when the 49ers were. Who was the quarterback then?
It had been Jim. I don't know. I don't know who it was.
Was Collins still back then?
Yeah, who knows?